Today we're gonna be watching this genre. This genre will replace Isekai. Okay, there you go. I had to get it.
Switch to Chrome to securely store your passwords, so you can sign in with just a click.
Guys.
All right, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's by. Oops. And Gigook.
I think I'm done with Isekai. At this point, I've seen it all. Isekai with power fantasies, economics, politics, using swords, smartphones, where the protagonist is reincarnated as a slime, vending machine, even a goddamn hot spring. For the longest time, Isekai was just my comfort food, something I could just turn my brain off and enjoy while using as few neurons as possible. Yeah, I knew it was unhealthy junk food, but sometimes you just want to indulge in something that feels familiar. But eventually, I've come to realize that as good as it tastes, eating too much McDonald's is detrimental to my health. So anyway, I started eating KFC. Regression is a very popular genre in Korean manhwa and is the latest landfill dumpster rabbit hole I have once again fallen into. The genre is to manhwa what isekai is to anime and manga, and is about as equally detrimental to my health. Now, if you don't know what manhwa is, well, it's kinda like manga, except it's spelled like this. And it comes from Korea. And a lot of it is way worse than what you can find in manga.
Look at this dude.
But you know where that last point doesn't matter as much? Trashy power fantasy stories where the main character becomes OP for some contrived reason that I just can't help myself from consuming. Hi, my name's Giguk, and I have an addiction. This is a genre that hits all the same notes.
Okay, that's how you say his name.
That got me addicted to isekai in the first place, while feeling just different enough that it still feels fresh. Or, in other words, it might not be your OP protagonist in a fantasy world isekai story, but you know what? It sure does smell awfully familiar. So, if you continually question your life choices like I do, but want something a little different to dive into other than the same isekai-filled dumpster truck, allow me to introduce you to Regression. Because if you think your isekai brain rot was as bad as it could get, allow me to show you that your dedication to trashy stories can go beyond a single genre, a single medium, and now beyond a single nation. But first, ad time. Before we continue, I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Asus ROG. Do you like to game? Are you dissatisfied that you can't game everywhere you go? Or are you a content creator like me and just want... First off, what the hell is regression? Imagine a trope that feels awfully similar to what you get to see in Isekai, but instead of seeing someone getting transported to another world and living their fantasy there, the protagonist gets transported back in time to an earlier point in their lives with all the knowledge of future events intact. Sometimes it's a one-off leap, and sometimes they can regress back as many times as they want with certain conditions. If that sounds familiar to you, it's because, well, it's not exactly a concept we haven't seen before. Tokyo Revengers and Erased are basically a story about two different regressors, and hell, ReZero and Summertime Render's time loop is essentially just a regression mechanic. But now, we're just setting the bar too high. The big difference is a lot of regression manhwa tend to focus on the protagonist using their knowledge of the future as a sort of new game plus approach to their lives. Some use their knowledge to correct past mistakes in their lives or get a revenge of some sort. Most others use it to become really OP in whatever world they're in. Probably a fantasy world with video game elements. Like I said, different trash, same smell. So in that case, the first anime title that comes to mind is... Oh, this doesn't look good for me at all. But, like Isekai, there are a lot of regression titles out there. Some are the same copy-paste titles you've seen a million times before. Some actually use the core concept in different ways. So, with more manhwa not only getting adaptations, but becoming some of the most popular anime of the season, and some actual regression manhwa adaptations starting to sneak in through the cracks, like A Returner's Magic Should Be Special, I think this is a genre we are only going to see more of in the future. Alright, you've piqued my curiosity. So, where do I start? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. The original plan was that I was gonna run through a bunch of titles, then I realized halfway through writing about the 10th regression with a fantasy backdrop, video game-esque abilities, a dungeon crawling structure with a big mysterious tower to climb, my fucking mind was starting to regress back to pee-pee poo-poo age. So instead what I'm gonna do is just speed run through some titles in different categories and focus on a few that really stood out to me. This way
What's your guys' favorite anime or manga? Let me know. Let me know. I'm an anime guy and I don't care. I love dub. I love dub. I love dub. What are you gonna do about it? Okay? Okay? Nothing.
Show you some of my favorites and prove that not every regression manhwa is a fantasy series where the main character can regress and get super OP because of it. So, let's start with fantasy manhwa where the main character can regress and get super OP because of it. Look, it wouldn't be a proper introduction without starting off with a series like this, okay? Like looking at Isekai and seeing the same copy and paste Sword Art Online clones, going through manhwa can feel like reading 1,000 different iterations of Solo Leveling.
I'm not the biggest fan of Sword Art Online, I'm not gonna lie to you.
Except, hey, this time the main character can also regress. Leveling with the gods is essentially just that exactly, but is one I actually think was executed half decently. The Swordmaster's son shows the rise of the youngest son in a family that's the equivalent of the Swordmaster version of the Zoldyck family. Kill the Hero details a good old revenge story where the protagonist levels up to kill the hero that originally killed him. Doombreaker, Volcanic Age, Infinite Level Up in Murim. If I were to continue, we'd be sitting here to the end of One Piece. So the series I actually want to talk about is SSS Class Revival Hunter. Not to be confused with my S-Class Hunters, the SSS Rank Hunters Lucky Draw, Civil Servant Hunters S-Class Resignation Log, but is to be confused with SSS Class Suicide Hunter, which is the other name for the series. Well, we're off to a fucking great start. Honestly, after seeing this title, I went into the series with half my brain turned off in fear that using over 10 neurons would hamper my enjoyment of it. But lo and behold, this had some of the most fantastic storytelling I could find in the genre, which is a fucking shocker because this is like having a light novel titled Reborn as the Weakest Mage that became the strongest dickhead thanks to his cheat skill in another world, and it turning out to be the Citizen Kane of Isekai. After a mysterious tower appears and people from all over the world gather to enter it and yada yada yada, you know how it goes. There are monsters on every floor, people get special skills when they enter, and anyone who tries to climb the floors and hunt the monsters are called hunters, like the Flame Emperor, the top ranked hunter. He has wealth, fame, power, and all that shit they say in the One Piece opening. Women want to be with him. Guys want to be him, which is exactly how our protagonist, Gongja, feels. A lowly F-ranked hunter whose only SSS class ability seems to be shitposting. He just like me for real. Out of nowhere though, the power grants him his first S-ranked ability, a power that allows him to copy any skill other people have. The catch? He can only copy the skills of anyone who kills him. And it only activates after he's already dead. Dejected at gaining a skill he'll never be able to use, he accidentally runs into the Flame Emperor and finds out that in person he is, how do I say this? A bit of a shit cunt. Gongja gets senselessly murdered by the dude, but as it turns out, the Flame Emperor has a skill that allows him to travel back in time exactly 24 hours every time he dies, which is the exact skill he needs not only to prevent his own death, but also make use of the one skill he has. Oh wow, would you look at that? What a coincidence. Who could have guessed this could ever happen? After waking up with his newfound powers, he decides to take revenge, so he travels back in time to a point before the Flame Emperor awoke his powers by offing himself 4,090 times. Yes, you heard that right. Wow. 4,090 times. This motherfucker unalived himself so much, he might as well change his pronouns to was/were. But after taking revenge, the real meat of the story comes when he uses his newfound ability to climb floors, become one of the most respected hunters in the land, and uncover the secrets behind this mysterious tower. Alright, I'm gonna be real here. I know the plot synopsis makes this sound like the most generic, trashy regression manhwa you can find, because...
Sorry, my nose is fucking up right now.
It absolutely is.
What if I told you for just $1 down? Oh, better yet.
At the beginning. But as you continue, you come to realize that this is not the generic trashy show you expected it to be. With a lot of these dungeon crawling manhwa, the formula is pretty set in stone. You go up floors, everyone encounters a progressively more powerful monster, everyone wonders how the hell we're gonna defeat it, main character swoops in, saves the day, powers up. Hey, it worked for solo leveling, it can work another 10,000 other times, right? But what sets Revival Hunter apart is the level of world building and different clear conditions when it comes to every floor. Instead of feeling like a dungeon, each floor is more akin to a different world with its own people, conflict, and hardships. Every stage is so thematically different and presents a different philosophy that Gongja has to face, and he never comes out the same person as when he entered. On the surface, it seems obvious what needs to be done to clear each floor, but as you dig deeper in each world, you realize there is far more going on underneath. This is honestly more reminiscent to seeing Luffy travel to different islands and resolving the different conflicts he encounters. But where the regression comes in is seeing Gongja's unwavering commitment to giving each world the one thing he thinks every place deserves: a happy ending. And to do that, he will retry the floor as many times as he needs to get the conclusion he wants. While Subaru is out here learning in season 2 that maybe he shouldn't be relying on his return by death ability so much, Gongja saw one low tier god video and thought it was a Mr. Beast challenge. 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times optimizing every little path, getting a better understanding of every single person, spending more time to to truly empathize with the struggles of every flaw before coming up with his own resolution. It's never about beating the final boss, it's about giving the characters in the world the closure they need no matter how much suffering it takes to get there. If you have enough patience to get to floor 21, or the mirror mark of this story, you'll be able to see what makes this series special. This is where the series truly comes into its own, with some of the most beautiful storytelling I've seen in this genre. Normally with these videos, I like to save the best till last, but I'll just go out and say that this was my favorite regression manhwa I've ended up reading so far. I came in looking for trash and I somehow ended up finding gold, so if you're thinking about trying any of the titles I just mentioned, this should be it. Whoa, Giguk, I thought we were trying to get off Isekai. What if I don't want another fantasy show with video game mechanics? Isn't there anything more realistic? I mean, sure, let's be real here. The first thing I'd do if I was able to regress back with my knowledge intact is maybe buy a Bitcoin, invest in some Apple stocks. Tell Justin Wong, don't do it! He's capable of parrying the super! Well, don't worry, there's a manhwa for that, except the Justin Wong thing, that was a joke. I would never deprive gamers of the greatest moment in esports history. Past Life Returner is there if you want a series about a guy regressing back and getting rich through hedge funds and financial investments. Medical Return takes the regression formula and puts it into a medical drama.
I get freaking fucking all the Bitcoin, bro. I would have like put so much money into Bitcoin. I had a little bit of money when I was a kid. I just didn't know what to do with it, you know.
With a doctor regressing back to
I was getting them prepaid cards though, buying shit online.
Fast track his medical career while making every other doctor look like a dumbass. To Be an Actor does this even better in my opinion, except with a successful actor rising up even faster to stardom again if that one arc in Oshinoko wasn't enough to get your fix. But for a grounded regression drama, I very much enjoyed A Man's Man. Hansung, one of the biggest technology companies in Korea, has just appointed their youngest ever CEO, Yoo Yeon-hung. He has it all. Power, fame, fortune, and all that shit they say in the One Piece. Except one problem. No one he cares about gives a shit. Hated by almost everyone he's worked with after he's betrayed and backstabbed his way to the top, his wife leaves him on the day of his promotion, and to top it all off, he finds out that one of his closest ex-co-workers has just committed Jump King. So, is there really anything to celebrate about? Alone and despised, he turns to his last remaining friend. A good old bottle of Jack, baby. Yeah, that'll never betray me. Except it does. And he dies. Corporate drama with a regression twist, and while you might be able to guess how this all plays out, the first thing that stood out to me about A Man's Man is just exactly what the protagonist's regression abilities are used for. Of course, with the company's future CEO with all the knowledge he has starting from ground zero again, you know what to expect. He's gonna climb the ladder even faster, play the company politics perfectly to a T, expose all the people who were a thorn in the time he was there, and everyone around him is left dick in hand wondering how the hell a young upstart can play the corporate game so well. But while many regression manhwa focus solely on the protagonist finding success in whatever field they're in, Yoo Yeon's energy is put into making sure his entire team finds success and rising up together. He makes sure his co-workers are equally seen, ensures that the actual people doing the hard work are the ones that get the recognition and not the loudmouth bosses standing above them. This isn't a story about a man who gained success. This is a story of a man who already found success but regrets the way he got there. In a sense, there wasn't a single person responsible for the thorny path he took in his first life, but it was the result of the highly toxic work culture that the company had fostered for itself, and it's that culture that Yoo Yeon is really fighting against, not by completely destroying the company, but changing it from within. Yes, this is a power fantasy, but it is a power fantasy for anyone who's ever worked in a big corporation where you feel absolutely insignificant and sometimes daydream to yourself, fuck me.
I wish, man, I wish.
If I was in charge, I'd be able to get rid of all these rotten parts I have to deal with on a daily basis, humble some of these overconfident, useless managers who don't seem to do anything and actually run a tight ship. Put that in a setting of working in a massive electronics company with their team specializing in working for developing screens for electronic devices, right before the era where some fruit company announces this phone that you can control purely through touch, and that probably won't be relevant or anything, and you got yourself a pretty fun read. But sometimes, after reading a bunch of manhwa, you encounter a title that doesn't really belong in any category you usually see, but still goes bloody hard, like the next series, Chosu Saves the World. What would you do if you knew the end of the world was coming? Would you let it happen, make the most of the time you have left and live your best life, or would you do everything in your power to prevent it? On Earth's final day, Chosu bears witness to a giant asteroid plummeting towards our planet. Scientific organizations detected the massive rock far too late and miscalculated it to be a near miss. All attempts to destroy or divert the thing have failed. As just a normal normal Korean office worker, Chol-soo, like many other people, was completely powerless to stop this fate, and all he can do is crack open one last cold one and give one final toast as he watches the world come to an end.
To get started in data analytics, you don't need previous experience or a degree. The Google Data Analytics Certificate.
But we all know this is a regression story where the end is just the beginning of the end. Again, Chol-soo wakes up decades earlier as a kid. No mentions of any asteroid, no one panicking at the end of the world, just one lone boy armed with Windows 2000 or Microsoft Windows 2000? Oh, we're doomed. With his knowledge alone of Earth's inevitable fate, he gathers his strength, looks up to the sky and goes, oh, that asteroid's going down. I don't want to close my eyes. I wish it was that epic. Chol-soo saves the world, takes the sometime render approach. He tries to save the world, fails, and every time he does, he wakes up 3 months past where he woke up on his previous attempt. But unlike summertime render, each loop is not days or weeks, but are decade-long attempts to explore the question of, is it realistically possible for a single person to save the world? Which, if you think about it, is pretty damn difficult. You might know an asteroid is coming to hit Earth, but what the fuck can you do? You're the only one who does, and you're just a bloody kid. The rest of the kids around you have just graduated from shitting their pants phase to eating boogers phase. Even if you have decades, what is the right approach to take to correct the course of history? Let's say you want to warn NASA super early that there's an asteroid coming. Well, you're just a fucking nobody who sounds like your run-of-the-mill crazy person who watched 2012 once and thought it was a documentary. Plus, they've already detected it before and thought it was going to be a near miss, remember? Do you really think they're going to take your word over their own scientific minds? Tough luck, kid. Go back to shitting your pants. Alright, well, I have decades, so how about I study astronomy and get myself into a position where I can develop anti-asteroid technology as early as possible so we'll be ready when that asteroid gets detected. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. But this raises a different issue. How do you get into a position influential enough where you can do such a thing? Where the hell are you going to get funding to pursue a project that will seem totally irrelevant until it's too late? Shall I hit up Daddy Elon to pump all his money into this instead of buying some bird website? Maybe I can convince coffee enthusiasts to use a percentage of their enthusiasm for developing a better cup of coffee into developing tech that could save humanity. And brew a cup of coffee. Loop after loop, layers get added to the plan, more problems arise that need to be overcome, time gets wasted specking into the wrong tech tree. Maybe you find out that a solution is theoretically possible, but you need to influence the technology infrastructure first to make it viable. This hits a grounded sci-fi drama itch I haven't felt since watching The Martian. Add in Armageddon with a little sprinkle of Steins Gate, and you have a title I finished in a single night. If you can keep your suspension of disbelief in check, especially in season 2, and buy into this fact that every single influential person humanity ever needed is conveniently placed in this one school, then for the most part, this was an absolutely gripping and grounded exploration of what could happen if we needed to advance our space exploration infrastructure, especially when real-life proposed solutions I could find for stopping an asteroid go something like,
how about this? The laser bees.
oh, what's this? An asteroid is on its way to destroy all life on Earth? Send out the laser bees! That pretty much sums up my introduction to regression manhwa. There is one more title I was planning to talk about that's not technically regression, but definitely takes the core appeal and spins it into its own unique thing that I feel has the potential to be the next big thing after solo leveling, but, you know, I think that deserves a video on its own. So, until then, I'm going to take a break from my Isekai and regression brain rot for real this time, and start diving into some good, critically acclaimed anime again. What's this? Cultivation manhwa from China? Oh no.
Let's get it.
Hey guys, hope you enjoyed that video. Thank you very much this month to Author Curtis Eckstein, Basil, Dysfunctional Degenerate, Flabberwocky.
What'd you guys think of that video? I think that video is really good. I mean, it was a good video. My nose hurts really bad. I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.